people understand a bird nerd. I am a plant nerd. I am doing. I think many of you might know now that I'm doing a course which is taking me in a very different direction. Having done um, uh, horticulture and biology stuff and politics, economics, accounting stuff, I'm now doing education stuff. I'm learning how to be a an English teacher, and I'm finding it to be about the most difficult thing conceptually that I've ever had to deal with before. But it'll be over. But it'll be over within a month, so then I can get back into the swing of very regular bird emergency and not just another podcast today. Today, throwing it together a little bit, but if you're Australian and you're in the audience, you know that we had a federal election a couple of weeks ago in Australia, and that's been run and done, basically. And it's significant from my real point of interest because the ALP, the Australian Labor Party, continues on in government, in majority government, but in a much increased majority government, strengthened in their position in the lower house in the Australian Parliament, and having a much less complicated relationship to pass legislation in the upper house in the Senate, because they now only have to deal with the Greens to pass things, or they can sell out their constituency and do deals with the Conservatives. But it's probably positive, depending on which way the government intends to go. But the big news is that there is a new Environment Minister. The former minister, Tanya Plibersek, has moved on. She's gone from environment to social services. Now, apparently, she really wants to be the education minister, but she's not. She's now the minister for Centrelink and all the other services in that massive portfolio. And Murray Watt is the environment minister. And previously, he was the agriculture minister. I'm gonna go through his bio, because he's one of these guys that was in the state parliament in Queensland before becoming a federal parliamentarian. He was in the Queensland Legislative Assembly, the lower house in Queensland. He was elected there in 2009, served one term. He was defeated in 2012, and then we'll just get through his 2012. He was elected to the Senate in the senator for Queensland into the federal parliament in 2016, and then he was re-elected his term in 2022. That means he will come up for re-election at the next federal election. He has been the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, June 2022 to the end of July 2024. He was the Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations for the end of July 2024 until just last week in 2025. He was the Minister for Emergency Management from June 2022 until the end of July 2024. And he was the minister. He is now the Minister for Environment and Water. So he's had some interesting jobs, understanding emergency management, and that's the federal department that has to coordinate with all of the state emergency services and the national emergency services, as it is mostly in maritime surveillance. But they have that coordinating role and distributing funds to the states. So he understands the bureaucracy, the national bureaucracy well. And having been the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, which is the sort of business side of the what used to be the massive conservation and environment portfolio. I think he will know many of the stakeholders very, very well. Very, very well. Is that a good thing though? I don't know. Just have a look at some of the committees he's also served on. The Joint Standing Committee, Trade and Investment Growth, 2016. Deputy Chair of that committee, late 2016 to early 2018. And then he remained on it until 2019. Corporations and Financial Services, Australian Commission for Law Enforcement Integrity Committee, Legal and Constitutional Affairs, just seeing if anything else, Rural and Regional Affairs and Transport, Finance and Public Administration, Future of Work and Workers, Effectiveness of Australian Government's Northern Australia Agenda, parliamentary positions when in opposition, Shadow Minister for Northern Australia, Shadow Minister for Natural Disaster and Emergency Management, Shadow Minister for Disaster and Emergency Management, Shadow Minister for Queensland Resources, 2021 to 2022. So he's got a background in, he'll understand the mining industry. And let's just see what else. Long-time politician. Let's see how far back we go. President of Young Labor Queensland, 1998. So that would have made him 13, at about 16 years old, president of Young Labor Queensland. Just have a look if there's anything really amazing there. Just all the conferences. Bachelor of Commerce, University of Queensland. Bachelor of Laws, University of Queensland. Oh, he worked, did his article clerk at Blake Dawson Waldron, associate to the Honourable P. Gray in the Federal Court, solicitor at Morris Blackburn and Reedy and Tonkin, chief of staff to the Premier of Queensland, Anna Bligh, 2002 to 2007. Now, Anna Bligh, after she left politics, this is where things, you always have to have a wide view. I thought she, albeit I wasn't living in Queensland when Anna Bligh was Premier of Queensland, but I thought she didn't seem to be one of the bad ones. But she leaves politics and then goes to work for the Australian Banking Association. And in Queensland, when he was the Parliamentary Secretary for Health when he was in the Queensland Parliament. So looking at his work history, and I'm not having a crack at him here because this is what so many people in the political sphere, he has had one real job. He was a solicitor at Morris Blackburn Lawyers and Reedy and Tonkin from 2000 to 2002. I beg your pardon. And he was a senior associate 2012 to 2016 at Morris Blackburn Lawyers. Where's the missing years? So after 2 years as a solicitor, he became chief of staff to Anna Bligh, 2002, the Premier, so political operative, 2002, 2007. Then what happened in 2007 to 2008? He was the Director of Policy Development at the Department of State Development, and then he became the Executive Director of Policy Development. So probably a sideways upwards move into the Department of Premier and Cabinet, 2008 to 2009. And then was 2009 when he went. Then he was elected to the Queensland Legislatively Assembly, or Lower House, in 2009 until he was, and he became the Parliamentary Secretary for Health, and then he became, that was in April 2009, so that was when he was pretty much went straight when he was elected. He was there for basically 2 years, just short of 2 years. Then he moved in to be the Parliamentary Secretary for Treasurer and Minister for State Development, 2011 to 2012. And then 2012, he goes back to working for Morris Blackburn, 2012 to 2016. And then 2016, is that when he... Yeah, 2016 is when he was elected as Senator for Queensland. So that was a long way around saying that he's only ever worked as a solicitor, other than when he has worked for for politicians or for government run by politicians that he has worked for. I think that's the short way of saying it. So he's now the Environment Minister, and the Australian government still has its nature positive agenda on the officially on the on the table. Um, uh, I'm just having a look. I'm trying to get an idea. Um, when was this published? Okay, 20th of May. When's that? That's today. Okay. So in the Financial Review, they've got a scary article that Murray Watt, the new Environment Minister, is considering handing a future federal Environment Protection Agency the power to approve major resources projects, a move that would inflame tensions within the industry and a West Australian Labor government. A week after he was tapped to replace Tanya Plibersek in the environment portfolio, Watt on Tuesday, which would be today, will meet with Western Australian Premier Roger Cook, who was instrumental in dismantling the Albanese government's first attempt at overhauling the nation's environment laws. Now, that was something that I was very critical of the government for. So we'll see what comes from that. A new environment protection body and the powers it could possess were key sources of tension between Canberra and WA's powerful mining sector in the Albanese government's first term. Watt on Monday refused to rule out handing any future federal EPA, Environment Protection Authority, uh, the power to assess and approve resources projects, despite acknowledging the conflict stoked by the issue during the government's first try at reform. He said, "I'm a new minister, and I think it's important I bring a fresh set of eyes to this whole reform process. That means not ruling anything in or out at this stage." Watt told the Financial Review on Monday. Earlier, Watt told the ABC that the approval power for the federal EPA was something he was keen to discuss with stakeholders. This is an area that has been particularly contentious, what the powers of an independent EPA should be, whether they should be simply a compliance agency and an enforcement agency, or whether they should have approval powers for projects. It's a little too early for me to commit to that. Cook, that's the West Australian Premier, said at their meeting scheduled for Tuesday he would push Watt to ensure any national environmental laws did not unnecessarily duplicate existing state laws. That's what they call green tape, right? He implored his federal counterparts not to make any decisions before consulting government, industry, conservation groups, and traditional owners. We will say to the federal government tomorrow is don't make what we will say to the federal government tomorrow is don't make decisions. Don't make decisions now and consult later. See, I reckon they've had a whole term to do the consulting. I don't believe that they need to behave like they're a brand new government, because they're not. They're a 3-year-old government. And the Victorian government has released its budget. Um, okay. All laws need to be in balance with each other. This is uh, the West Australian Premier Cook. Still, all laws need to be in balance with each other. We want to see our environment protected, but we also want to see jobs created and we want to see the economy grow, particularly in the Pilbara as the engine room of our national economy. Cook said Woodside's Northwest Shelf extension would be the first matter on the agenda at the pairs meeting on Tuesday. A project approval, he said, warranted consideration as a matter of urgency. The only reason it's bloody urgent is that if they don't approve it and get it going, by the time it is producing, the world will be turning away from fossil fuels. So they need to get it going now, or else it will be a dead duck. And there'll be a whole pile of sunk cost in there. The extension remains under legal scrutiny from environmental groups, with fresh challenges emerging in the final days. I've missed a paragraph. Watt last week confirmed the federal government would not again delay a decision on whether to approve a decades-long extension to Woodside's major gas facility in WA. Plibersek, former minister Tanya Plibersek, had twice pushed back deadlines on the matter. That was my big criticism of Tanya Plibersek. She didn't make decisions. She put decisions off. The extension remains under legal scrutiny from environmental groups, with fresh challenges emerging in the final days of the consultation process. Watt, who was sworn in last Monday following Labor's re-election on May 3, said he had received an initial briefing from his department and expected a final recommendation within the next couple of days. Woodside said it looked forward to engaging Watt in his new role and working with him to secure approval for the Northwest Shelf project to continue operating beyond 2030. And of course, this is from the Financial Review. So the comments that they seek comments, and they've gone to the Chamber of Minerals and Energy of Western Australia. Chief Executive Rebecca Tomkinson said a compliance-only EPA that left decision-making powers with an elected minister would be the best outcome for the industry. So when it's one of their friends or an industry that they are concerned with, they definitely want a tame minister with powers. But if it's in a different one, they think an unelected, they think the elected people have got too much power. They can interfere. Creating a new federal decision maker will add yet another layer of bureaucratic duplication to what is already a lengthy and complex project assessment process and go against reform objectives aimed at improving process efficiency. In one of his 30-odd trips to Perth in the last term of government, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, flagged the government was likely to pursue an EPA without powers to approve projects. Okay. Now, let's see what else we've got. Let's see, who's just seeing some people popping in. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Twitch. Nice to see you. I'm Grant. If it's your first time popping in, I'm Grant. I'm a bird nerd. What we're doing today is reviewing the results of the Australian federal election, which has happened on the 5th of May. Is that the right date? Saturday, 3rd of May. 3rd of May. And also we'll then have a look at the recent Philippines national elections. Wasn't a presidential election, but it was a national election. And see what those results can tell us about conservation outcomes in the Philippines. Um, let me share the screen a bit. I think we'll do that. Or let's not. I'm going to change the way we do these streams again. Um, yeah, let's not. I'll waste too much time with that. I'll just read it out. Now I'm looking at news.com.au. This is from yesterday. Murray Watt pledges decision on key gas project. So this will be the same conversation about the Northwest Shelf. Yes, it is. So it looks like Albanese is the one who has been a problem for conservation in the government. Is Murray Watt going to be strong enough to? Now this is from Saturday from the ABC. Actually, I will. I'm going to add this scene. Let's get this happening. Just bear with me. I do want to share these. Here we are. There we are. That's got it. There we are. Sorry, folks. Just got me. And I'll also add the chat. That would be good. All right. There we go. We can do this now. Fantastic. All right. Great. Great. Now you can see what I'm speaking to. Environment Minister Murray Watt heads west to restart nature positive talks with a decision on Woodside gas project looming. Now, I think this is just going to be the same. I think it is just going to be the same. Well, slightly different. So this is an interview with the ABC. In an interview detailing his hopes as Environment Minister, Senator Watt said it bodes well for the government's shelved nature positive reforms that Federal Environment Minister Suzanne Ley is now has the top job within the Liberal Party, given she initiated the review into the ageing conservation laws. Now that's the Samuel the Samuel report. Uh, I did an episode of the Bird Emergency on that review with Peter Burnett, and that must be about before. Well, it has got to be 4 years old or more, so you can check that out. Peter Burnett from ANU. Woodside's proposal to extend the life of its gas facility in Karratha from 2030 to 2070. I mean, fair income, 2070, has been under assessment for 6 years, and a decision on it delayed twice by the former minister before the election. So that's two sides of politics haven't been willing to take a decision on it. Senator Watt says he intends to approve or reject it by May 31. It is certainly my intention to make the decision within the time frame we have previously agreed. I recognise this decision has been a long time coming, he told the ABC. My decision will be independent. It will be based on the science and the evidence that is presented to me, and it will absolutely be based on the law. So that'll be interesting to see. I suspect that the coalition government wouldn't make the decision because the science said, don't do it. The science said, this is a project that should not go ahead. And I think Labor Prime Minister Albanese, lent on the former Environment Minister in the Labor government, Tanya Plibersek, to not make a decision because they really, really, really want it to go ahead. Or on Monday, Liberal Senator Michaelia Cash, she's from Western Australia, said Senator Watt must decide quickly on the Northwest Shelf gas proposal, accusing the former Environment Minister of delaying it for political reasons. Well, her government could have approved it. The West Australian state government gave its own approval for the project late last year. Conservation reforms fought by WA to be rewritten. With his feet barely under the desk, the Environment Minister is also picking up the task of rewriting the government's environmental conservation reforms known as the Nature Positive Plan, which was fiercely fought by West Australian Premier Roger Cook. The government wants to modernise the 25-year-old Environment Protection and Biodiversity Act, which governs environmental approvals, including for mining, forestry and energy projects. The Ageing Act would be refreshed to speed up the approval process and include climate change considerations with a national watchdog established through separate legislation. And you may remember that I thought the government was being a little bit tricky when they put the legislation to establish the EPA into one bill, and then they put the laws that would govern how the operation of the EPA and the laws that the EPA would need to administer. They just put them off. So Prime Minister Albanese intervened in the dying weeks of the last term to confirm the bill would not proceed. So he could have passed it, and they didn't. Senator Watt said he would speak with environment and industry stakeholders in WA next week. That's happening today, and had reached out to ministers in the Cook government. He confirmed the bill would be rewritten. So that means it's going to be delayed for at least another year. if it's being rewritten, it will go out to committee. It will be shopped around. I see this as one of my highest priorities in this job. Graham Samuel identified years ago in his review that our current environmental laws uh, aren't working for the environment and they're not working for business. Well, nothing's changed, mate. It's been like that for ages. I mean, probably 18 months of the last government, that was the case. The Samuel report was released. I see this as one of my highest priorities in this job. Graham Samuel identified in his review that our current environmental laws aren't working for the environment and they're not working for business. I think my record shows I'm someone who consults widely, is able to bring people together to tackle difficult challenges and then be decisive and get things moving. Hmm. Hmm. There is optimism across Parliament now that this term could see significant environmental reform. Now, this was my initial thought, with now opposition leader Susan Ley and now Greens leader Larissa Waters. Now, Larissa Waters was also an environmental lawyer before she became a member of Parliament, a senator for the Greens, both formerly from the environment portfolio and familiar with the technical and contentious sector. So there's a lot of uh, there is a lot of uh, know-how. let's say legislative and legal know-how about the environment laws in that group now. Susan Lee was the environment minister in the coalition government for a time. I used to have a banner on my Twitter account making fun of her for not making decisions. Um, the stalled nature positive reforms to the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act were also kick-started by Ms. Ley as Environment Minister, but again, it all got delayed. I think it does bode well to have Susan Ley now leading the Liberal Party, Senator Watts said. She was the Environment Minister who commissioned the Samuel Review, and she supported that process, which indicates to me that she agrees reform is needed to our environmental laws. He added that as a fellow Queenslander, he also had a good personal relationship with Senator Waters. So it's Larissa Waters from the Greens. She's now the leader of the Greens, and she was an environment lawyer before she went into Parliament, who had made positive statements about wanting to deliver a more constructive approach. And we can talk a little bit more about that. I mean, I've done a show about the Greens already, but I think there's a lot to be said about where the Greens are now in Australian politics. There was a lot of analysis about the Greens going backwards at the at the election just been, but in fact their vote was almost exactly the same. And it's hard for the Greens to win seats in the lower house. So basically their position in the Senate looks like it'll be exactly the same. What I've found in my initial calls to the representatives of the environment sector, mining, and other groups is that there is actually a lot of goodwill to passing reforms. It's probably difficult timing to be finalising those reforms in the run up to both the West Australian and federal elections. Here's the thing, there's always another election. There's always another election. Aussie Welder, how you going? Good to good to see you. Glad to have you back. Um, as soon as you arrive, the bird starts to. Can you hear him? He's not happy. I noticed before I came in to start the stream that he needed some of his favourite tucker. He was chowing down on some broccoli, but yeah. Okay, what I'm doing, Aussie Welder, today is having a look at a couple of things. We've been talking about Murray Watt's history, his work history. Yeah, things are great. Things are great here, mate. Things are great here. Really cold in the mornings here, though. I might say. So I'm having a look at what the appointment of Murray Watt as Environment Minister might mean. We had a look at his interesting work history. Uh, he was the president of Young Labor when he was 15. Of course, he's a lawyer, and he worked at Morris Blackburn and its the firm that it subsequently became. That's the only real job he's ever had, other than working for politicians or being in Parliament. Working in the state government in uh, in Queensland, working for as the chief of staff for Anna Bligh when she was premier. But he did do 2 years working as a solicitor at Morris Blackburn, and then he went into Parliament. And after he came out of after he lost the election, the state election, after 3 years, one term in Queensland, he then went and worked for Anna Bligh. And then when that ended, he did do another stint as a solicitor for Morris Blackburn until he went back into Parliament. So anyway, we've been right through that. It's getting cool in Perth. Okay. Yesterday, I didn't look at how cold it got this morning, but when I went out early, there was frost all over the ground. But yesterday morning, it was minus 1.5 here at about 6 a.m. It was very cold. I've had to put my sleeping bag onto my bed as well. It was too cold here. Anyway, so let's just have a little bit of a look more at what Murray Watt's saying. Well, Murray Watt's saying it's something I really want to drive forward, talking about the nature positive and the nature. See, what they're all talking about is the nature repair market. This is what worries me. The nature repair market, to my mind, is not actually going to drive conservation outcomes. It's going to drive financial outcomes masquerading as conservation outcomes. And there'll be a whole lot of projects that on the face of them look very good for conservation, but they probably won't be the crucial. They probably won't drive the crucial protection activities that we really, really, really need. Aussie welder. Sounds dodgy. Yeah, I think when you financialize something like protection of biodiversity, I'm not sure that it's something that I'm going to think is going to work. So let's see. Let me just read what Senator Watt said. Senator Watt said he looked forward to continuing the work Ms. Plibersek had done in the ministry, including establishing the nature repair market, which was legislated last term. That's an example of the range of good work Tanya Plibersek did in the role. She has got a lot to be proud of as the Environment Minister. I don't know if I agree with you, Murray. Yeah, I hear protect profits. Yeah, I hear greenwashing. I hear messaging. Is what I hear. It's something I really want to drive forward. My time as the Agriculture Minister. Now we talked about that. So he's already connected into the agriculture, mining, forestry sector, having been in that ministry and in the shadow ministry too for that. And economic development. And he was in the Premier's office in Queensland, resources state, tourism state. It's something I really want to drive forward. My time as the Agriculture Minister really brought home to me the economic opportunities as well as environmental That sounds dodgy the way that's. It really brought home to me the economic opportunities as well as environmental. I think he means environmental opportunities in putting in place a nature repair market that rewards people for protecting the environment. He also confirmed the government would continue to pursue its policy of zero new extinctions in standalone cultural heritage legislation. He will also deliver a review into Australia's recycling and waste reduction laws in the middle of the year, which will consider regulation of packaging products. Um, I'm supportive of that move. I hope what he does. Yeah, he already has it backwards. Yeah. See what I don't hear in that. Let me just head over here while I get some. Have a look at some other. Uh, I'm just looking for anything else that is interesting about Murray Watt that we can talk about. Um, I think you're right there when you said he already has it backwards. I'm not sure that they mean to have it backwards. I mean, this is a guy, and this is a guy who uh, has been in the Labor Party machine since he was 15 years old. He was the president of Young Labor Queensland at 15, probably nearly 16, but that's what the dates look like. Uh, I'll bring it up again. Where's his personal? So he's born in January 1973, and where's his personal thing? Uh, so this is on his Parliament House profile. President of Young Labor, 1978. And when was he born? Uh, what do we say? January 1973. Young Labor president, 1998. So uh, 10 years makes it 83, and 5 makes it 1998, which makes him 15. So Aussie Welder, I'll just go over a bit of this again because you've just come in. So in 1998, he's president of Young Labor. He's 15. He joins the Labor Party in 1990, so he's 17. Let's see, 1990. 1990. He then did a law degree, and he's either just finished or just about to finish. He does 2 years as an article clerk, 1997. So 1997 makes him 24. So let's assume he went to uni at 18 or 19. Law degree is 5 years. So basically, he's gone school. At that time, he's a member of the Labor Party. He's also the president for 1 year of Young Labor Queensland when he's 15 or 16. He then goes to be an articled clerk at Blake Dawson Waldron Solicitors for 2 years, 1919. From then, he doesn't go straight out to work. He does 1 year as an associate to a federal court judge, the Honourable P. Gray. Finishes that in 2000. In 2000, he goes to be a solicitor at Morris Blackburn Lawyers and Reedy and Tonkin, 2000 to 2002. I'm not sure if that's two firms. I think it is Morris Blackburn and then Reedy and Tonkin, 2002. And then from 2002, he moves into being the Chief of Staff to the Premier of Queensland, Anna Bligh, for 5 years, 2002, 2007. 2007, he moves from Chief of Staff to be the Director of Policy Development at the Department of State Development. You see where this is all heading? What happens in state development? It ain't preserving the rare birds of North Queensland. It's digging stuff up and building roads and approving mines. 2007 to 2008, he held that post. Then he moved to be the Executive Director of Policy Development at the Department of Premier and Cabinet, 2008 to 2009. So what happens in 2009? In 2009, he's elected to state parliament for Everton. He's there for 3 years. He's defeated at the 2012 election. And in 2012, while he's in Parliament, he's the Parliamentary Secretary for Health, 2009 to March 2011. Then he becomes the Parliamentary Secretary for the Treasurer and Minister for State Development. Are you sensing a pattern here? 2011 to 2012. He is defeated at the Queensland state election in 2012. He then goes back to be a senior associate at Morris Blackburn Lawyers for 4 years. So he's got 6 years working as a lawyer, and he's got all that time working in either for the Premier of Queensland or working in state development, working for the Treasurer and in state development. So 2016, he's at Morris Blackburn, and then 2016, he's elected to the Senate for Queensland in 2016. He's re-elected in 2022, and he becomes a cabinet minister in June 2022. He becomes the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, and also the Minister for Emergency Management. And that works well because he has a pretty keen understanding of how states and state and federal relationships work. He then, in July 2024, he becomes the Employment for Workplace Relations, and he holds that until he becomes the Minister for Environment a week ago. So I sense a pattern. I sense a pattern in Murray Watt. Now I don't want to sell him short yet. He hasn't done anything bad. But yes, I think we have good reason to be dubious of him. Yeah, I think you're right, Aussie Welder. It's interesting that his first priority, his main thing that he wants to do is straight away get to have a chat with the Premier of Western Australia, who has already nixed our conservation laws once. But the reason that I wanted to have a look at these stories, I went to one of the AIs today. So I went to the AI and I said, "Can you find me any quotes that Murray Watt has made about conservation policy in the last 5 years?" Murray Watt was the Agriculture Minister and now the Environment Minister in Australia. Here are several notable statements made by Senator Watt. Blah blah blah. Upon his appointment, this is recent, our natural environment and water supply is the foundation of life on Earth, and only a Labor government can advance this long-term conservation. Protecting Australia's spectacular natural environment and being a good international partner and facilitating sustainable economic development will all be fundamental principles throughout this term. Regarding the proposed extension of the North West Shelf gas project, Senator Watt acknowledged the contentious nature of this decision. He recognised the strong opinions on both sides of the debate and understood that any decision is likely to be controversial. And then, as Agriculture Minister, in his 2022 address to the National Rural Press Club, not even the Press Club, Senator Watt underscored the significance of sustainable practices in agriculture. He discussed the importance of biosecurity measures, climate mitigation, the agricultural workforce, indicating a commitment to integrating environmental. This is where words matter. A commitment to integrating environmental considerations into agricultural policy. Environmental considerations does not say protection, does not say conservation. It says integrating environmental considerations into agricultural policy. A lot of weasel words and a lot of words that give you the impression he's saying one thing when he's saying nothing about conservation. He also reflected on the historical context of environmental initiatives. 34 years ago, then Prime Minister Bob Hawke delivered a landmark speech on the banks of the Murray River. Bob began by saying, "This morning's launch symbolises two realities about our environment." Yeah. These statements illustrate Senator Watt's consistent emphasis. Now, this is the chatbot telling me this, right? These statements illustrate Senator Watt's consistent emphasis on balancing environmental conservation with economic and community interests, highlighting a collaborative approach to policy development. Yeah. So the point of all that. Then I asked, are there any examples of him speaking about biodiversity policy or nature positive policies? Yes, Senator Watt addressed biodiversity and the nature positive agenda in various capacities over 5 years, both as Agriculture Minister and more recently as Environment Minister. So let's have a look. As Agriculture Minister, during his tenure as Agriculture Minister, Watt emphasised the integration of biodiversity considerations into agricultural practices. He announced a $40 million initiative to establish a network of sustainable agriculture facilitators. Okay, so basically land care coordinators in a slightly different role. These facilitators aim to support farmers in adopting climate-smart agricultural practices and engaging with carbon and biodiversity. Okay, so here's again where language matters. Engaging with carbon and biodiversity markets, thereby promoting investment in natural capital and biodiversity. There's a word missing. Anyone know what it is? It starts with P. It's protection. You could use many other words, but in a speech at the National Rural Press Club, Watt highlighted the importance of biosecurity measures, yes, climate mitigation, yes. Now, this is where I always bang on about this. Everyone's talking about climate. Nobody's talking about real biodiversity protection and the agricultural workforce. So, biosecurity, that's to protect the agricultural market. And obviously bird flu. I mean, that's different, but they're not talking about protecting pelicans and black swans. They're worried about the agricultural industry. So, biosecurity measures, climate mitigation, and the agricultural workforce. That's ensuring we've got enough backpackers to pick fruit and pick vegetables, indicating a commitment to integrating environmental considerations into agricultural policy. And then recently, he has said he's committed to building upon the work of his predecessor. Well, we went through that, particularly and this is the mealy mouth bullshit that they spout, particularly in advancing environment laws that balance ecological protection with economic considerations. Watt has expressed the need to approach environmental reforms in the spirit of the Graham Samuel Review. And again, I've covered the Graham Samuel Review. If you go back, Peter Burnett. I think I even spoke to Simon Holmes at court. I think we talked about that as well. Talked about it with a bunch of people, which recommended the introduction of national environment standards to assess development applications. We didn't get the standards in the last election, in the last parliament. He also acknowledged the contentious nature of establishing a federal environment protection agency, indicating ongoing discussions about the scope and powers of such an agency. So that got me thinking. That got me thinking that I didn't hear any talk about protection and conservation. I heard about integrating policy into agricultural procedures, agricultural practices, protecting the market for the labour market. Anyway, so I asked the chatbot, is the swift parrot functionally extinct? The swift parrot is not officially classified as functionally extinct, but it is critically in danger and perilously close to that threshold. A species is considered functionally extinct when its population is so small that it can no longer play a significant role in the ecosystem process, or it's no longer viable for long-term survival due to too few breeding individuals, genetic collapse, or severe habitat fragmentation. Estimated population, fewer than 750 individuals, possibly as few as 300 in some expert assessments. And that was, it's declining by 5% annually. Key threats, logging of old growth forests in Tasmania, especially in areas with blue gum, has destroyed the key nesting sites. Predation by sugar gliders in Tasmania is a major cause of nest failure, and climate change is affecting flowering cycles and migratory cues. Of course, it is a migratory parrot. We've got 2 migratory parrots in Australia, and guess what? They're both critically endangered. 2023 study led by ANU ecologist Dr. Dejan Stojanovic, or Dr. Swift Parrot on Twitter and Blue Sky, warned that the swift parrot is on track to become functionally extinct within 10 to 15 years unless urgent conservation actions are taken. He has described it as being in a death spiral due to habitat loss and insufficient breeding success. If logging continues in critical breeding habitat, there is no way this species will survive. In summary, the swift parrot is not officially extinct yet, but its population trends, reproductive challenges, and habitat destruction suggest it is on the brink of becoming so. Without immediate, large-scale habitat protection and predator management, extinction functional or total, is a real risk within the next decade. So, why did I read you all that out? We got a bird which will become, and it's a significant bird. It's not a lorikeet, but it behaves like a lorikeet. It breeds in Tasmania and then migrates and feeds on the mainland. There may only be 300 of them left, and they're declining at a rate of 5% a year. I didn't hear Murray Watt mention anything about any particular species and any real conservation actions, any protection actions. So then I asked the chatbot. I mean, I know these answers. I just wanted to see what it would come up. What would come up? Are there any Australian birds that are functionally extinct? And bear with me, because this leads into where we go, getting past Australia and then looking at the region, which is what I'll be doing a bit over the next little while. I'm going to look at the Philippines today. Are there any Australian birds that are functionally extinct? Yes, there are a few Australian bird species that are considered functionally extinct or on the verge of functional extinction. These are birds whose populations are so small, fragmented, or reproductively compromised that they can no longer sustain themselves in the wild. Confirmed or widely accepted as functionally extinct. The Christmas Island forest skink. Not a bird, but instructive, the chatbot tells me. Officially declared extinct in 2017, but it became functionally extinct earlier when only one individual remained. Okay. I don't know why the chatbot threw it in there. Maybe good story. I don't know. The King Island brown thornbill. Now, this is a subspecies of the brown thornbill, not officially declared functionally extinct, but surveys have found fewer than 50 individuals. I have talked about the King Island brown thornbill. There's an episode basically on it with Kate Ravage, I think, one of the very early episodes of the Bird Emergency. You can go back and have a listen to that. Researchers from the University of Queensland and BirdLife Australia warn it is on a functional extinction trajectory due to habitat loss and fragmentation. It's very specialised where it lives on King Island. Obviously, there's not much opportunity for it to be very numerous, but yeah, less than 50 individuals. The orange-bellied parrot. Oh, that's the other migratory parrot in Australia, which also breeds in Tasmania and migrates to the mainland. One of the most endangered parrots in the world. In 2016, the wild population dropped to just 3 females and 10 males, functionally extinct by many definitions. Since then, invasive captive breeding and wild release programs have temporarily boosted numbers, but its long-term survival in the wild without intervention remains doubtful. Not officially declared functionally extinct, but at severe risk. Region honeyeater. Fewer than 250 individuals remain in the wild. Wild-born birds are losing their song culture due to low population density. Many can't learn species typical call, which affects mating. They can't find each other to have a party, get a party on. This behavioural erosion is a hallmark of impending functional extinction. Swift parrot, we just talked about, not yet declared functionally extinct, but is rapidly approaching that point due to ongoing habitat destruction, sugar glider predation, and a shrinking breeding population. What counts as functionally extinct? Australia doesn't currently have a formal legal category for functionally extinct under the Environment Protection Biodiversity Conservation Act. So the term is generally used by scientists and conservation organisations to describe dire ecological or demographic scenarios. Um, uh, Now, the paradise parrot is an Australian bird that is extinct, functionally extinct before the 1920s, but it didn't go extinct, I think, till 1927. So, yeah. So then I thought, all right, another place that I've got been to several times, really, really love going there, and uh, was a bit amazed at how hard it is to find birds in the Philippines. So it is, of course, the Philippines. So I asked the chatbot, are there any birds that are functionally extinct in the Philippines? Yes, several bird species endemic to the Philippines are considered functionally extinct or on the brink of functional extinction. Uh, the uh, Takao, it might be Takao, I think, hornbill, subspecies of the Visayan uh, pteryctic hornbill. It was declared extinct in 2013 after disappearing from Takao Island. Walden's hornbill, also known as the writhe-billed hornbill, this critically endangered species is presumed extinct on Guimaras and may be functionally extinct on Negros due to an absence of recent sightings. The Sulu hornbill, endemic to the Sulu archipelago, only about 27 mature individuals believed to remain, primarily on Tawi Tawi. The species is extinct on Jolo Island. The blueback parrot. This is one I would love to see. Once widespread, this species is now feared locally extinct in much of its former range, including Negros, Panay, Leyte, Luzon, and Polillo. Recent records exist only in Samar, Mindanao, and Tawi Tawi. And the Cebu flower pecker. Feared extinct in the early 20th century, it was rediscovered in 1992. However, sightings have become increasingly rare, and some believe it may be extinct again. Now, I don't know if you know what the Cebu flower pecker is, or if you're familiar with the Australian mistletoe bird. The Cebu flower pecker looks like the mistletoe bird, Australia's mistletoe bird. Now, they're tiny and they hang out high up, generally high up in the trees. Um, if you're not a bird watcher, you're unlikely to notice it. Um, and I've got to say, when I was in Cebu, I didn't see anyone. Well, the times I've been there, I didn't see anyone who looked remotely interested in the nature around them. So it may well be surviving out there, but uh, not so uh, hopeful. Um, Now, habitat loss and destruction is a massive issue in the Philippines, as it is here. Slightly different approaches to it, but that's the same the world over. If you stop cutting the shit down and give the animals a chance, they might hang on. One of the things we don't have in Australia that is rife in areas of the Philippines is hunting and poaching, um, both for food and the pet trade. And I have to say that I saw birds I was really surprised to see in markets and as cage birds. And so, yeah. And we have a very different approach to protecting the environment, even though we don't think we do here. We don't think we do it very well, but I can tell you there are places where it's a massive issue. Um, I'm just checking, just bear with me while I just check and see if anyone's been sending me any. Uh, okay, got some. I don't know what what the reaction was on Facebook. Hello, Facebook, Rin. if you're there, thank you. I just noticed you reacted on Facebook. Um, so then I thought, we've just had an election. They've just had an election in the Philippines. How did the recent election in the Philippines impact conservation policy? Now, I don't usually do my research this way. Let you know that. I usually dig right into it, but with these assignments and stuff that I had to get done, I got the last one handed in this morning. I got it done. I've been well out of time. The 2025 Philippine midterm elections had a multifaceted impact on conservation policy. Um, so let's just have a quick look at the situation in the Philippines. I'll read you a summary. The election saw a significant push from civil society and religious organisations to prioritise environmental issues. So that tells you that any improvement in Philippines environment policy and outcomes will be community driven. The politicians are not leading these movements, and we can probably hazard a guess why. The Caritas Philippines. So Caritas is a religious based, I think, community organisation. We've got Caritas here, Caritas all over the world. Launched the Green Agenda 2025, urging voters to elect leaders committed to ecological integrity, climate justice, and sustainable development. Bishop Jose Colin Bagaforo. I've probably totally butchered the pronunciation of his name. Sorry about that, Bishop. Emphasised that the environment protection is a moral responsibility, highlighting the urgency of ecological issues in the electoral discourse. Similarly, the Philippine Business for Environment Stewardship, I don't think it is I think it's Philippine Business for Environment Stewardship, PBEST, called on the electorate to support candidates with clear environment platforms, underscoring the need for sustainable policies in government. Despite these efforts, a significant number of political candidates did not prioritise environmental concerns. A report by Greenpeace revealed that 88% of the Senate candidates failed to disclose their environmental agendas, indicating a persistent gap between civil society's environment priorities and the political platforms of many candidates. The elections have also impacted conservation initiatives on the ground. For instance, the management of the marine protected areas have been affected by political transitions. A study observed that after the 2019 elections, enforcement in certain marine protected areas was suspended, leading to a significant drop in fish biomass and undermining years of conservation efforts. Now, what that doesn't say is that those suspensions often happen at the direction of local politicians and the influence of those local politicians. So it's quite a significant difference in the way government is done in the Philippines. I'll look into that more because one of the things that the Filipinos can be or are proud of and can be rightly proud of is their network of marine protected areas. But if there's no protection in those areas, it's a bit like when we used to have lots of logging in. Well, we used to declare state parks in Australia. Oh, we're declaring a state park, and then you say, yeah, kind of. You think it's a protected area because it's got the same kind of signs that they have in national parks. So when you're driving past, you go, oh, look, oh, it must be a park. It must be protected. But no, they end up being logged or mined. There's parts of many state parks where there's a lot of sand mining going on. Anyway, while the 2025 elections brought environmental issues to the forefront of public discourse, the translation of advocacy into public policy changes remains a challenge. The effectiveness of conservation policies will depend on the sustained political will, robust environmental mechanisms, and continued engagement from civil society to hold leaders accountable for environment stewardship. So then I said, what are the conservation policies of the main Philippines parties? Uh, Aussie Welder, again, thank you. No good having all the protections without any enforcement. Yeah, well, that's one of the things that we've become experts on here too in Australia. We announce things that sound like they're protections, but then there's no enforcement. I mean, remember what happened when they blew up an Aboriginal sacred site? Uh, did anyone cop? Did anyone, any actual individual, cop anything about that? No. It's like that company in Queensland that did all the illegal land clearing because they're a policy. A company, they get a fine. No actual individual goes to prison. A paper entity uh, gets a punishment. So I said, what are the conservation policies of the main political parties in the Philippines? In the Philippines, political parties often lack distinct ideological platforms, leading to a political landscape where environment and conservation policies are not consistently prioritised. However, some parties and movements have articulated positions on environmental issues. And that's a really interesting situation in the Philippines. Often they don't state a policy. They have vibes, and there's a whole lot of individual largesse. Um, Aussie Welder says, yeah, and a fine lower than what they account for. Often they know what the maximums are, so they just work out whether or not they can, uh, uh, whether they can afford it. They just build it in. You know, maybe we'll get that fine every 5 years, so it just becomes a cost of business. You'll be amazed to know, everyone. Woohoo! There's been an interest rate cut in Australia of 0.25%. I'm just seeing there was some other news. What else have we got? Apparently, there's more disaster in Victoria with Mikey. But the other news, I don't think we'll have time to get to it today. I think I'll probably talk about it tomorrow. Is that the coalition agreement in Australia between the National Party and the Liberal Party has blown up. So there is no coalition now. So we're probably going to have the Nationals still wanting nuclear and not to have any real climate policy, and then the Liberals probably trying to tread the fine line between being climate deniers and pretending they care about climate change, but not actually having a policy. So that will be interesting how that goes. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the political parties in the Philippines, but those that have an environment policy, the Akbayan Citizens Action Party, and their Social Democratic Progressive, and they advocate for environment protection, and I think they're an absolute minor party. If there's someone in the audience who's from the Philippines, drop a comment and tell me if that's for sure. There's a Philippine Green Republican Party, and they're into the green politics. There's a Liberal Party that also has environmental initiatives, but way back uh, under President Benigno Aquino III, uh, but not always at the forefront of its platform. Then there's a PDP Laban. Populism and federalism is their ideology. This is President Duterte's. G'day, Charlie. Good to see you here. Not surprised the Libs and Nats are split. It's pretty funny. I'll come back to that in a minute because I'm not too sure. I'll give you my take on that in a minute. So let's put a pin in that. I just want to finish talking about the Philippines parties and my comment about them, and then we'll swing back to what the lack of a coalition in Australia will mean, because it's a bit more complex and a bit more nuanced than I think people are the first takes have been. So PDP Laban, under the leadership of President Rodrigo Duterte, PDP Laban's focus was more on infrastructure and economic development, with environmental concerns often taken a backseat. There have been instances where environmental regulations were relaxed to accommodate development projects. This is the bloke who said shoot criminals. Not after they've been arrested or been through the legal process. You think someone's a criminal? You can kill them. It's okay. Lakas CMD. Christian democracy and conservatism is their ideology. The environmental stance has not prominently featured environmental issues in its platforms. Its policies generally aligned with broader economic and development goals, with less emphasis on conservation. Now, this is pretty standard in developing countries, because it's imperative that there is development and that people can improve their lives. And then there's a bunch of other groups: Bayan Muna, Gabriela, Anak Powis. These groups often champion environmental causes, advocating for the rights of Indigenous people, opposing destructive mining practices, and promoting sustainable agriculture. Their platforms typically integrate environmental concerns with social justice. Environmental advocacy in Philippines politics is more pronounced among progressive and left-leaning parties and party list groups. Mainstream parties often prioritise economic development, with environmental concerns receiving less attention and less prompted by public pressure or specific events. They're a lot like how I think we were in the 70s, where particular issues, 70s and 80s probably, would garner a whole lot of attention. And it still happens now, but we've got a broader national conservation movement that I think really came out of the Franklin Dam movement. I mean, that's where the Greens really changed the face of Australian environmental politics. And that was one easily identifiable issue and location where all the energy could go into it. Then it was stop native forest logging. And those approaches built a national movement. And hopefully that can happen with the Philippines. Voters and advocates interested in environmental issues, supporting parties and candidates with clear, actionable environmental platforms is crucial. Engagement with civil society organisations and grassroots movements can also amplify the call for sustainable and conservation-focused policies. What are the major national political parties in the Philippines? So I asked the question, get in. Oh, Charlie, here we go. Did Marcos get in? Now, Marcos was not running. It was not a presidential election. It was a national election for assemblies and state and local governments. Uh, so I don't have all the results. I will do a Philippines politics rundown, but it won't be on all the channels. It will just be on Not Just Another Podcast on YouTube and on my Twitch channel. So there's a good. There is a very good. A very good time for me to give you the link for. I'll just pop this in the chat. Oh, it was feeding back. It was playing to me again. This, I'm too lazy to get the whole link. I've just popped the link in the chat for the Not Just Another Podcast YouTube channel, and I will also pop in the Twitch channel. Why is that still bouncing back to me? Oh, that's why, because I'm still watching it, aren't I? That can go. There we go. We'll get rid of that. And I'll give you the Twitch one as well, because these channels are not about really about conservation. So I can do politics in there and people can not get upset with me. But they do get upset with me when I pop it in here. So, and there's the Twitch link. So if you want my politics stuff, jump into either one of those. We've got yeah, so there we go. Also, will be slightly different format than the way I've been doing this. So, did Marcos get in? No, I was quite surprised when that happened before because of how corrupt Imelda and her husband, Ferdinand Marcos. Look, I can't remember the exact amount, the percentage, but the proportion of the national wealth that Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos stole, and that now Bong Bong, who is the president, has obviously had some access to over the years, is staggering. And I'm always amazed at I have friends in the Philippines who speak very fondly of them. One thing I learned the first time I went to the Philippines, I learned very, very quickly not to talk about politics with people, because the times that I spoke about the Marcoses, like people would say, oh, yeah, but, you know, you come from a rich country and the Philippines is a poor country and we can't do things because we're such a poor country. And I looked around and all of the big agriculture was being owned and managed by American companies or other country companies. All the mining activity was run by other countries. And people didn't even seem to know how much money had been stolen by the Marcos family. It's something that's been completely disappeared from Philippines discourse. People I spoke to didn't even really know about the Cory Aquino revolution, people power revolution. So, yeah, I learnt pretty quickly that people can get pretty pretty upset about about comments and opinions that you hold as a foreigner about the Philippines when you are there. I did try to read the local newspapers as much as I could. Every time I'm there, I try not to just check out not to check out the English language media, just to get an idea of what is being told to people. And look, politics is done in a very different way in the Philippines than it's done here. And there is a lot of largesse on a local level that that is how electioneering is done by local politicians. So, yeah, I will. I did ask. I did ask what the sort of outcome of the federal election was. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. The Philippines national midterm election held on May 12 significantly reshaped the nation's political landscape, highlighting the ongoing rivalry. And here's a problem. Here's a problem, as I see it in the Philippines. The president is the son of a former corrupt president, and the vice president is the daughter of the maniac president, who, before he went to be a maniac, when he first went on the scene and he was the mayor of Davao, I thought, oh, these policies of his are quite good. But then extrajudicial killing is not okay, right? And Duterte, former President Duterte, won the mayoral election in Davao. So he is again the mayor of Davao, but he's in jail. But his daughter is the vice president, right? But here's the issue. You have the families, you have these dynasties. Cory Aquino, daughter of, or was it daughter or was it the wife of former President Benigno Aquino? And Ninoy Aquino. You see where I'm going? Dynasties. These are not good for representative democracies. Anyway, in the Senate, out of the 12 Senate seats contested, Marcos-aligned candidates secured 6. Duterte-aligned candidates won 4, including such figures as Christopher Bong Go and Roland Barto de la Rosa, both close allies of former President Duterte. Notably, Senator Amy Marcos, the president's sister, was re-elected but has shown signs of aligning with the Duterte faction. So the sister of the president's going to side with the opposition. The remaining 2 seats were claimed by opposition figures Bam Aquino, again, Aquino, dynasty politics, and Kiko Pangilinan, reflecting a diverse political representation in the Senate. These results are pivotal as the Senate will play a crucial role in the impending impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. A 2/3 majority is required for conviction, and the current composition suggests a challenging path for her opponents. Now, I'm going to say I do not know what she is being impeached for, but look, I'm going to flat out say it. Their political system was designed by America and imposed upon them. And it's basically a mirror in the way it's in the way it is organized, in the way the institutions work. The same as theirs. And guess what? The American system doesn't work. They can't pass anything because they have the filibuster. In a lot of cases, in their Senate, they need 60% of the vote to pass. 60% plus one. They and they like to say that it's the best system there is, but I'll take a parliamentary system like ours and like the Brits and like the Canadians and the New Zealanders over theirs any day, because we can change a government and things can change overnight. They have entrenched gerrymanders. They don't have independent electoral commissions like we do here. So, Charlie, I'm just seeing some of your things. Let's see. Is it a propaganda machine over there, or do you not feel trying to tell them is helping them? They are hoodwinked by BS. I'll tell you what my personal experience is with people I know in the Philippines. People, if you're not in the professional class in the Philippines, you live hand to mouth, right? You get 500 pesos, you buy some food, you eat it, and then you're flat broke again, right? Now, at election time, there's a lot of bribery. Politicians will, politicians with money will go and print up sacks of, they'll bag sacks of rice from the local rice growers co-op, and they'll have their face printed all over it, and they will give them out. Now, a couple of sacks of rice is a couple of months worth of rice for a poor family. And it's sitting there in their, and their houses are nothing like ours, mate. Right? So they'll have a couple of sacks of rice sitting there in this one or maybe two room houses in the provinces, and that face of that politician is staring at them with a nice message on the bag, no doubt. The same as why AusAid and USAID print up all those bags of rice and corn and wheat and distribute them, and everyone, oh, this is from America. It's got the American flag on it. Why do they do that? Because it bloody works, right? And that's what they do in the Philippines too. And they hand out money and they hand out vouchers for things, the stuff that is just dead set illegal here. But it's effective because people need it, right? Now, what's Charlie got? And I guess folks don't want to hear. People like to keep their ideas. They're not educated in politics the way that we kind of are. People don't consume the news the way we do. They don't have radio the way that we do. And a lot of that stuff is by design. If people don't know stuff, I mean, people literally are not aware of what the Marcoses did. But people, when I was there, I used to a couple of times I've seen this one documentary. It's a sort of an old documentary that they run all the time. Well, the times I've been to the Philippines, I've seen it on like their magazine show or Recycling in the Morning, these shows that have hours and hours to fill. When the Beatles went to the Philippines and met Imelda Marcos, right? This thing runs over. I've seen it a handful of times. So that's what they see, and their president is Bongbong Marcos, but they don't show, or they don't talk about how they ripped off the treasury of the Philippines and how the Americans helped them get away and protected them for years and years from prosecution from international courts. Yeah, I expect impeachment will work there as well as the USA. Yeah, I expect it will too. Now, I'll take a parliamentary system in a heartbeat over the US system. Absolutely. Sadly, AusAid is not anymore. AusAid still exists. It just is functionally broken. It does still exist. Um, whether or not they're going to be able to repair it is another issue. Um, the other thing uh, about the Philippines that is quite different to here is you have provincial government, so you have governors in the provinces and whatnot, and from what I can see, they run sort of the local health systems and things like that, and they're quite different from province to province. Um, Similar to Australian states, but also not really. But there's also local uh, barangay, and those politicians are extremely influential and in some ways powerful. I know that there is like a captain in some barangay who kind of is the local administrator and can enforce punishments on you if you owe someone a casual debt. Um, so in a lot of ways, it's still a bit like the wild wild west. And personality politics is hugely, uh, yeah, is hugely. Um, I'm going to say beneficial, but it's not. It's influential, and the Philippines has something that is in line with America as well. Their army, the Philippines army, can also be drafted in to form policing functions. Um, you have local law enforcement, very local. You have a whole bunch of different people who wear uniforms and guns. Very different to the uh, enforcement structures in Australia, and um, I kind of think it was. I think they're perpetuated because kind of. I'm mindful of saying too much, but I think that this is a bit like the conservation kind of conversations that I had with people in the Philippines. Um, it's just not something that is front of mind for most people in the Philippines. And I totally get it because front of mind is eating. Front of mind is getting enough money to, if you're a student, making sure you've got enough money that you can actually get to college the next week or school. A couple of the communities that I spent quite a bit of time in, their schools didn't have internet access. Their schools didn't have computers. And we're only talking about just prior to the pandemic. We're not talking about, uh, you know, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. The elementary schools that I went to, the primary schools, uh, very, very different to what we expect here. So the level of um, civic education is quite different. They understand their institutions, they know about them, but then the way politics is talked about is very, very different. The culture is very different. People in authority are respected just because they are in authority, not because of what they do or what they say, just because that they are there. You have a position, you get respect. You're older, wearing a uniform or in a suit and tie, you get respect. I mean, God, I got respect because I was a foreigner. Ludicrous reason for anyone to respect someone, in my view. Um, but I guess it's why some types of foreigners get away with a lot of shit that they do in some countries just because of that respect that they get just from being a visitor, from being different. Um, so anyway, I didn't really want to go into down there, but thanks for the questions, Charlie, or the comments, because uh, I think we often judge um, from an outside point of view, and especially a Western point of view, and especially coming from a country, Australia, New Zealand, UK, a lot of Europe, New Zealand. We've got democracies that really work and they're really healthy. And we're so used to hearing criticisms from like Americans going, yeah, but you're forced to vote, and and this idea, that yeah, but you have to do what the king says. No, we don't. It's got nothing to do with what we do. But they don't recognise the failings in their own system. Uh, so conservation is one of those issues where, while I can sit here and sit on my ass and carry on about what we're not doing in Australia, we're we're actually doing better. You look at the last 10 years. While we still have these same problems I keep bringing up, the Swift parrot, blah, 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 we are still protecting more stuff than we were 10 years ago. We're just not prioritizing the stuff that is just about to disappear. But we are protecting stuff, and we are doing a lot of uh, a lot of really good work in improving our water, our river systems, our the banks of our rivers. A whole lot of stuff we are doing well. We're just not doing the really urgent stuff. But in a lot of countries, this just doesn't happen because there is no mechanism to make it happen. Charlie says, I've seen Americans treated very respectfully while they're behaving like tyrannical sex pervs just because they're foreign and have cash. Yeah, it's about the money, right? It's about the money. Oh, look, I got sidetracked. I got sidetracked. I couldn't believe the first time I went to the Philippines and when I arrived I didn't fly into Manila. I I deliberately didn't want to. My first part of going to the Philippines to be Manila, so uh, I went to Kuala Lumpur and then I flew into um, the uh, to Boracay to Calabo actually, but it's called that was the where the airport was, but it services Boracay, the tourist island, and uh, but I flew into Calabo, and instead of you get picked up at the airport, and everyone wants to take you straight off to the resort, and I didn't want to go. I just wanted to go to some crappy joint in Calabo, and Calabo's got a naval base. I think there's I'm not sure if it's a police training academy. There's some university there. But it's like a sort of navy town, right? From what I could tell, the first time I arrived, but it was vibrant. It was busy, and I thought, oh, this is good. So I just found a shitty, cheap little guest house, and I stayed there for a couple of nights and just walked around Calabo. No tourists because it's not anywhere tourists go. And I thought this is cool. I like this joint. Um, but people were really respectful of me, and were also helping. Like, I didn't have any Tagalog, any Filipino uh, language skill, and if you're not in places where there's a lot of uh, tourists or a lot of business, uh, sometimes there's not a lot of English going on, or the English around you is very rudimentary. So there's a lot of pointing, and if I want street food, that and this and what's that, and uh, Anyway, that was my first experience there. And I thought it was great. Then I did go over to Boracay. And because it was a tourist hub, it was totally different vibe, Um, people expected you to be like the sort of sex pest tourist, um, and while there were people from all over the world and there were couples and a lot of sort of romantic getaway kind of stuff, I hated I hated it there. I couldn't wait to get away from Boracay. I only stayed there 2 nights before I thought, no, I've had enough. Some people in the Philippines dream all their life to go to Boracay. Um, but to me, it was like going to the um, shitty part of the Gold Coast. Charlie says, "Yeah, hard to be veggie in Southeast Asia." When I went the first time, I wasn't veggie. I think I would have to take well, next time I go, and I do hope I'm going again before the end of the year, I will probably, just where I can get tofu and bean shoots and whatnot. That'll be great. But in a lot of casual eating situations, if you're just normally socializing with friends or if you're going to someone's place, yeah, it's just not a thing being a vegetarian. It's just not a thing. People don't cater to it. People don't expect it. People don't want to be rude or judge you about it, but it's just not a thing. Except in the professional class, and when you can, if you're well serviced by a good supermarket or something, you can. But that's not most of the areas that I travel to. Certainly the Philippines, Indonesia, the same. The same. I suspect in some other places it may be significantly different, but that's my experience. Plus, I haven't been since the pandemic, so I don't know. All my anecdotal stories are quite a few years old now, but hopefully I can build my experiences. So where is I? Anyway, so we talked about the Senate. Go back to the House of Representatives in the Philippines. Uh, President Marcos's party retains dominance with 104 seats. The Duterte faction has 31 seats, so that's 135. I haven't got the whole makeup there. And there's a Duterte Youth Party. They also got 3, and Akbayan also got 3 seats. Local elections. In a remarkable turn, former President Rodrigo Duterte, despite being detained at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, he was re-elected as mayor of Davao. So his son, Sebastian, won the vice mayor position, and another son, Paolo, was re-elected as a congressman. So Duterte is the mayor of Davao, but he's being tried for uh, basically human rights abuses in The Hague. But that's okay. His son is the vice mayor, so that's okay. They're just doing mayor shit, and the other son, he's in Congress. Uh, so Sarah Duterte, the daughter, she's the vice president, and she's facing impeachment proceedings. Um, but the Senate's composition suggests she may not there may not be enough votes to convict her to on the impeachment, potentially positioning her for a 2028 presidential run. Um, uh, so that's my Philippines rundown. But a lot of that stuff just exists, particularly in the provinces. A lot of this info. Look, I tended to be more aware of Philippines politics than a lot of people that I met in the Philippines, be they in Manila or in the provinces. But I say that with one proviso. They just may not have been interested in having any discourse about politics with me. One, because they don't think it's my business. And two, maybe they don't want to tell me what their thoughts or their political leanings or whatever are. Um, I can tell you when I was in the provinces, I did see a lot of people who had guns, just walking around with guns. So uh, I wouldn't want to get into any sort of heated political debates with people. Um, uh, so I'm just saying what no new messages, so that's good. Um, yeah, so there there we are. So conservation. Getting back to um, so yeah, as you can probably tell by just what I've read out about the Philippines politics, is it surprising that no one is really talking about uh, some little hard to see bird called a flower pecker or uh, some nondescript little green lorikeet that is teetering on the edge of extinction? They do. Uh, they are well aware of their icon species like the Philippines eagle. Everyone's got some. They all know about the Philippines eagle. It's the national emblem, uh, and there is a significant conservation effort to protect it. And similar to the way it works in Australia with icon species, if they're protecting the habitat of the Philippine eagle, well, then they are protecting the habitat of all the other animals and birds and critters and plants that live uh, in that same habitat in those localities. So that's a positive thing. Uh, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of protection aimed at the other species. But one thing I've learned doing the bird emergency is when I'm researching uh, particular species in the Philippines, there does seem to be a lot of research going on, and that's great. Uh, Interestingly enough, though, a lot of it seems to be funded from outside of the Philippines, and I don't know what I think about that because I have not spoken to enough Philippines-based Filipino researchers. Most of the people I've spoken to about birds, and this is pretty similar in Latin America and um, other Southeast Asian countries, is they tend to be based internationally and they go in to do projects, specific research, specific projects in the Philippines, and then they leave. So Charlie says umbrella species are important. Got to be pleased just for that awareness. The Philippines eagle probably has a big range. Yeah, big range, fragmented range, but reducing. I mean, the stronghold is Mindanao, right? But the same thing that is happening for the Philippines eagle as is happening for many of their other species is that they are contracting to smaller and smaller spaces, so just like it's happening here. Because forestry and mining and just general development, uh, they might not be cutting down a whole heap of area in new areas where they set up little towns. Towns grow, and then you get urban sprawl. And as people move into areas, they're not deliberately destroying the environment, but they need to grow rice and they need to plant other crop species. If they want fruit, they have to be able to clear some land to grow fruit. So the challenges are the same everywhere. It's just the way people manage that development, and often the way we the way we manage development is to not manage anything. It's just to say, "Oh well, it's all right at the moment." But then when we do big development projects like the Northwest Shelf gas hub, Woodside said, "Yeah, we need to be looking 50 years ahead. We want you to approve something for 50 years, but we can't get development permits or uh, about domestic properties beyond each local council election period." So, yeah, so there we go. Oh, I was going to do some YouTube drama, some slop tube YouTube drama, but uh, ABC News has done me a favour. Uh, let me just bring it up. YouTube, Mr. Beast, YouTuber James Donaldson denies wrongdoing over Mayan ruins video. So what a surprise! Climbing a pyramid that he's not supposed to do. Charlie says, "I think they do have an active birding community. Philippines, Sri Lanka. I certainly know of big online groups." Uh, well, what I can tell you about my experience about birding and bird watching in the Philippines, having been there several times and spending a lot of time in the provinces, and not, when I travel in the Philippines, I prefer to take buses, crappy buses, drive along the highways the way normal people do. Uh, Go to the transport hubs and find how I'm going to get to my next location. So I'm not moving with the professional managerial class. Sometimes I stay with people who are in the professional managerial class when I am at different places. But people are amazed that I'm interested in birds. Generally, everywhere I go, people will tell you they like birds, and then they'll point to their myna in a cage, their Javan myna, or some other bird that like their. I did see a lot of what I know as the Pekin robin cage birds. Quite a few canaries. But no, I didn't see anyone who had any binoculars and were heading out to go bird watching. People thought I was a lunatic because I was wanting to go and look and see what birds were local. And when I saw a bird that I was interested in, I would ask people, "What is that?" And people would sort of go, "Oh, it might have been the first time they've ever noticed that bird, despite it living around them for 20 or 30 years." So I think uh, I think birding in the Philippines. I'm not sure about Sri Lanka, but I think Sri Lankan. I think a lot of that will be expats, um, and again the professional managerial class. It's a lot like birding here in Australia. Um, bogans don't bird, right? The people who were birders uh, are generally PMC, right? Um, Britain, whatnot. You have to have a certain amount of privilege to be concerned about going bird watching on the weekend and planning your bird watching tour, planning your trip to Antarctica to go bird watching, or your trip to Russia, or your trip to, well, let's say Sri Lanka, your bird watching trip to Sri Lanka. Um, let's be frank about it. You are in the professional managerial class, which is not most people, especially, and I'm not criticizing people, right? I just think people need to be, I, you know, I went to from year 9 onwards, I went to a private school. My parents spent a fair bit of money on educating me. Uh, I was able to go to university. It was expected of me, uh, privileged person on stolen land. I think we need to. Uh, uh, I'm not in the privileged class anymore. Um, Gaming Portal, hello. Gaming Portal must be on Twitch, I'm guessing. Gaming Portal, tell me why you've popped in to have a chat with us today. Please don't spam us, okay? I'm going to tell you, I'm hot on the banning. Okay, so we're getting 2 hellos. We're talking about conservation policy generally at the moment. Charlie, did I miss one of your things here? Yeah, I did. Sorry. Perhaps it's Indian and got to get anything. Perhaps it's Indian or Bangladeshi tourists there. They're certainly very keen on birding, and they may run the groups. Yeah, look, I've got to say there's a lot of bird watching going on in India. But I think also we have to be careful about um, thinking it's a big deal um, just because it's visible to us because we're already interested in it, right? Um, it's like, this is the first time I've ever seen Mr. Beast being talked about on the ABC, but Mr. Beast got 300 million YouTube subscribers. So for the people who know about Mr. Beast, he's a big deal. But I can tell you, my housemate has got no idea who Mr. Beast is. Right? I could probably knock on the family next door, and they probably have no idea who Mr. Beast is because he's a big deal in one space, but he's nothing, right? On in another space. So um, when we're aware and we're interested in bird watching and conservation, we're we're aware of the people who are into conservation and the um, but even when you talk about tourism and you think nature tourism and photography, bird photography and everything, that's nothing compared to sports tourism and just general arts-based tourism and cultural tourism. We're always trying to add conservation onto that so that we can grow it and we can grow awareness. Um, so yeah, I'm not making criticisms of it. Really, I'm just sort of saying uh, we always need to check ourselves and take a step back about how important or how relevant what we we're going on. Charlie says, yeah, probably because you and your flatmate are not 10 years old, and I think Mr. Beast is adored by youngsters. I know a lot about Mr. Beast, and YouTube. Uh, I watched him a long time ago. I just think the point I was only making about it is I got a notification from the ABC, and they're doing a story about him now because apparently he's done something wrong on Mayan ruins. So there's a scandal element and whatnot. But the point I'm kind of making is that um, he's probably got more. Probably got more YouTube followers than Kanye West, right? But and who's that other Diddy, Sean Combs? But those people were influential with a different kind of person, and those people amplify their popularity, even though they're not that popular, right? Compared to someone like Mr. Beast, but Mr. Beast is still not that popular. Right? Charlie says, yeah, we see what we see and sometimes think it's higher in others' minds due to our knowledge. Yeah. Um, I mean, I'm amazed at the amount of slop tubers who have really, really significant audiences talking about nothing. So I'm going to give that kind of crap a go for a while. That's why I've got the other channel, and I'll start putting more stuff on it and just doing the stuff that the algorithm picks up, because the algorithm does not want to know about the Cebu flower pecker. Not remotely interested in in the Sulu hornbill, right? Um, and I've always wanted to spread the word, and I think you've got to get into somewhere and then start talking about stuff when you're in there. Kanye, I'm very disgusted. Yeah. Um, see, I'm not disgusted because I honestly could not recite or hum or sing one Kanye song. I've managed to completely not know. I also don't think I could tell you a Jay-Z song. I think I used to know a Diddy song from way back when, but I'm just not into that whole. As soon as a musician gets into celebrity culture, I'm just completely not interested at all. And I mean, that sort of. Oh, I wouldn't say I never liked any rap, but middle of the road rap, not the least bit interested. And I think the minute that you are when you are making a reputation on being a battler, um, it's like I don't know. The minute you're saying, "Oh, I'm a battler. I come from the hood or the projects," and then you start flashing around. Uh, um, oh no, I've broken me battery. Oh well. Anyway, it's very hard to stay true to yourself. Do you need to? I don't know. That's another thing. We've all got our own perspectives, and we all just go with them. Excuse me while I've got to plug my battery in. There we are. Yeah. So where? Now let's go back, Charlie. You getting off the track. The coalition, blowing up the coalition. I've got to plug my phone in to charge it. Just wait. Oh no, I don't. I've got another battery here. Um, is it the end of the Liberal Party, and is it a good thing? Well, it won't be the end of the National Party. I can tell you that. Uh, while the National Party can finish second or third in all of those rural electorates around Australia that it currently does, and a few of them where it finishes number one, they'll continue to get representation. They'll continue to be about as relevant as they are today, and they'll continue to get about 4% of the national vote. In Queensland, the Nationals and the Liberals are the one party. So whatever happens with the it doesn't unwind that party, and the same in the Northern Territory where the Country Liberals are the party. So I think there's a whole lot. Just because there's not a federal coalition, it doesn't unwind all of those legal mergers and those. They're actually legal entities, those political parties, whereas a coalition is an informal agreement between two political parties. I think it's more of a problem in the short term for the Liberals than it is for the Nationals. The Nationals will just go their own way. But when the next federal election rolls around, they're going to have to be in a position to probably not the next election. I think the reason that they've unwound or that they haven't renewed the coalition agreement is because they both parties know they're not going to win the next election. So they've got to be looking to the one afterwards. And this is where I see the danger for the Liberal Party. They either have to get really, really serious about reconnecting with a metropolitan base, or they have to find a way to fight off the Teals. And there's going to be a lot more. Remember what nearly all of the Teals are. They're nearly all disaffected Liberals. Spender. Google the Spender name, right? See what the family history is for Spender. Who's the other one? There's a couple of them, aren't there? Zali Stegel. She's no child of battlers, right? These are people who were the wets of the Liberal Party, the moderates in the Liberal Party. But there's no such thing as a moderate Liberal when it really comes down to it. They are progressive on lots of social issues, but just look at their voting history. They're anti-union, they're anti-worker, they're pro-corporate influence, they're pro-money. That's okay. They're allowed to be. But they're, in most cases, if on most issues, if it was a choice between supporting a Liberal government or siding with a Labor opposition and the numbers were tight, they nearly always will go with the Liberals or with the Conservatives, because that's who they mostly are. And I'm not criticising them. That's where they're from. I was amazed at all the people who when the votes were being tallied and people going, "Oh, I can't believe what's happening in Goldstein. How come they're going back to the Liberals?" Going, do you know Goldstein is Brighton and Hampton and St Kilda East, Elwood. Goldstein's not the fucking suburbs of Frankston or the outskirts of Ipswich. Goldstein is Liberals, right? Kooyong Young is Liberals. Right? Monique Ryan's a surgeon, for Christ's sake. Not that there are not, uh, not that there are not Labor surgeons. But the point really is, no one should be surprised that the Liberal Party looks a lot smaller because there is Liberal light. The Teals are Liberal light. Even though they're quite progressive on some of the conservation kind of policies and whatnot, but they're, I think if push came to shove, if they had to make a choice, if their life depended on making a choice, who would they like to spend the rest of their life with? Locked in a compound with the Labor Party and the Greens, or locked in a compound with the Liberals and the Nationals? I reckon I know where nearly all of them would go. So unwinding the coalition agreement means it gives the Liberals an opportunity to change their the way that they are viewed in the community over the next 6 years, without having to commit to anything, because they can always say, well, in government, we would need to come to some agreement with the Nationals, and the Nationals will still be pro-nuclear, climate denying, even though they won't say that they're climate denying, but they won't really want any real climate action. They won't want anything binding. They'll have targets. I would be amazed if the Liberals move towards sort of equal representation for their parliament, for their parliamentary body between male and female. I don't think they'll have quotas. I think they'll still keep talking about merit when it comes to selecting candidates. I don't think much will change, but I think the Liberals will have the opportunity to walk away from nuclear and some of those damaging policies, but they're still going to have a threat. And this is where I think some of the commentary I saw earlier today was that it's going to be the end of the party. They need each other. I don't think that's quite so true. I think it gives the Liberals an opportunity to actually peg out some new ground. But if they do not make up any ground electorally, and they cannot repair the shit show that is the Liberal Party in the state branch of Victoria and the state branch in Western Australia, they're going to really, really struggle. And then the problem, or the challenge for them, is going to be, how do they fend off One Nation? And remember, nearly all the people in One Nation, and indeed that came out of Trumpet of Patriots, were Liberals, right? And if the Liberal Party cannot make any inroads into that part of the party and the voting bloc that went to the Teals, the only thing they can do and that they will do is go One Nation. So, and One Nation / Trumpet. So I think they have a real challenge. The challenge for them is, can they hold together for 3 years? Well, there's a number of challenges in front of them because they've got to ditch, they've got to walk away from nuclear. They've got to be credible on walking away from that. Um, oh, I might do this tomorrow. Uh, if any of you saw the Senator James Patterson interview with Sarah Ferguson from, I think it was from last night. Um, that was astounding. That indicates the problem that they're going to have is that they just don't know where to walk. And they'll be waiting to see how Albanese's government performs. Because in a lot of ways, Albanese's government won the election. This is my view. This is my analysis. They won the election because nobody was prepared to take a risk on the other wankers. And the Greens vote was pretty much the same. And when you have a look at the differences in Trumpet and One Nation and everything, their fluctuations were quite tiny. But there was a big move away from the Liberal Party. And that was really the whole story. But they weren't prepared to go. In most cases, they were prepared to go to independents and then Labor. So it's I'm glad, Aussie Welder, that you agree. Yeah. So it's like one of the things I always say. There's no such thing as a moderate conservative, right? There's no such thing as a moderate liberal. They are the party of property and wealth and privilege, and that's what they will protect. And if Albanese starts to solidify the hold on that centre and is able, so if Albanese can, and the Labor Party can not set the horses running by looking after people who own one property and are trying to get another one, or are just aspiring to be in one and want to go to uni and, you know, aspire to school choice, all the stuff that I kind of hate. But that's where most people in the country are. That's where they want to be in this society. The Liberals have only one place to go, and that's harder right. They can only go after those voters on the right. Because if Albanese and the Teals continue to occupy that middle right ground, if Labor is now a broader church than it was at the election before. But maybe Susan Ley will surprise me. And maybe the Nationals will do something catastrophic for themselves. Maybe they will maybe they will stop catering to the people who continue to vote for people like Canavan and Barnaby Joyce, and up until, Senator Price. Ron, I mean, just think of all the people they've had. Ron Boswell, Charlie, I did put it in the same sentence. I don't hate people aspiring to go to uni. I do hate people aspiring to get their second or third investment property, right? But those same people who are aspiring to increase their personal wealth through property investments are also the natural constituency of people who are not so much wanting to go to uni, but expect that their offspring will go to uni. I think that's really what I mean. I know plenty of people who want to go to uni but will never make it. The families whose kids won't go there, or they might get there but they might not complete uni just simply because of their economic circumstances. It's quite a deal harder to go to uni than it was when I first went to uni. That seems to be the experience that I see of people around here. And remember, I live in a battler suburb. Plenty of money here in the battler suburb, but people aren't getting it by being solicitors. They're getting it by being plumbers and builders and brickies and landscape contractors. And I'm going to cast aspersions. And there's a whole lot of people making a whole lot of money out here being drug dealers and other stuff. So, yeah. So, yeah, Charlie, I hope you understood what I said. I did throw it in to that sentence, and you're quite right, but that's not my position. I certainly do not. Um, uh, I mean, uh, I actually think everyone should. I think it should be a whole lot easier for people to complete tertiary qualifications. I think there should be a whole lot of more support mechanisms. I think the way that we make it hard to get to uni, and then once you get there, we make it really, really hard for people who are not privileged already to stay at uni and succeed at uni. I think we still have a big problem there. I mean, I'd like to see HECS completely scrapped or really fair income means tested. But then it doesn't really matter. I mean, the proportion of the amount of money you collect from HECS by means testing it so that ultra rich people don't get it is a drop in the bucket. You probably spend the money that you save in administering it. So you may as well not worry about it. Just make it all free, make all universities good, make everyone, whether they're in rural Australia, regional Australia, or the inner city, the western suburbs or the southeast suburbs or wherever you live, that yours is a first class university and that your public schools are excellent public schools. And if people want to make the choice to go to a school like my father wanted me to go to and sent me to and spent money on it, why should anyone else be paying for him and by extension me? I didn't make the choice, but why should people be paying for two school systems? If you want to go to private school, pay for it yourself. Why should the community at large be paying for two school systems? Anyway, yeah, don't get me started on all that stuff. I mean, why are governments giving money to private clubs like racing clubs and football clubs and professional football clubs? Yeah, don't get me started on all that kind of crap. Yeah, can't find money to. I mean, the high school I went to before I swapped out to a private school, and I went to a pretty shitty private school too, by the way. But I did go to a private school. See, obviously, you're privileged if you went to a private school. Yeah. Oh, well, here we go. Aussie welder, the Perth Bears, the North Sydney Bears. Now, North Sydney were bailed out once, were helped to get into another joint venture, bailed out again, and now there's government money going to set them up in Perth. Fuck that, right? How much money does a professional rugby league club have to suck out of the public purse over 30 years? Fuck. Just let bloody Gina Reinhardt or Andrew Forrest or someone else just fucking do it, you know? All the public money that went into. So it's 50 million, but 50 million's only the amount that they talk about now. It'll end up being 300 million because they'll need training facilities, right? They'll need support to have a women's team. Now, I'm not against having a women's team and all that, but why, in a professional league, why should St Albans North Soccer Club not get some money that gets given to some fuckers? I don't know. I'm totally over this. There's so much bullshit. So yeah. Anyway, don't get me started on that because one of those things I'll never understand. Yeah, that is all they mention. That the costs will be endless until it collapses again. Yeah, well, I don't know. You're in Perth. Do you reckon that rugby league's got any chance of existing on its own without being topped up by the rest of the league, and then the rest of the league ends up getting money? There's always federal money going into rugby league. Doesn't matter which side. AFL the same. They should just look after it. And at the same time as they're all going, oh, we haven't got any money, they're paying people $1.2 million a year to run around. To me, it's just unbelievable to think that that someone running around in a rugby jersey or a Aussie Rules jersey, Guernsey, jumper, can be being paid $1.2 million a year, and we can't pay doctors and nurses properly. And actually, let's forget talking about doctors and nurses so much. Teachers, right? Not a chance it will flop. Yeah. And then you have a look at all the people who are running all these clubs and how bloody useless they are when you look at their corporate histories and how people continually fail upwards and fail sideways. Yeah, flopped last time they tried over here. Am I misremembering? But wasn't there an Adelaide Rams? Didn't they have a club in Adelaide too? I mean, they're starting one in Papua New Guinea now. I'm not against that. To me, that makes sense, and there could be some good arguments for putting government money into putting a sport into Papua New Guinea and using it as a way to encourage development if we think it's important in Papua New Guinea. When you say I think so, I think you're talking about the Adelaide Rams there. I think the Adelaide Rams was part of Super League, wasn't it? So, because remember, rugby league's already blown itself up once. Thanks, Murdoch. It's madness and infuriating. Really spend the money elsewhere on necessary services. This is the other thing too that we have in Australia. I'm sure when I look at the news tonight, because the Victorian state government budget was released today, and all the stories will be debt and deficit and blowout and blah, blah, blah. But we're going through the biggest infrastructure build in 50 years in Victoria at the moment. And that costs money. And I went through I did this exercise the other day, and this is instructive for you too. I kept seeing all these stories about the blowout in what were they talking about? The Metro Rail thing, I think. Um, Newtown Jets. I want the Fairfield Magpies back. That's what I want. I want the Fairfield Magpies back. Um, uh, Super League. I forgot about what a disaster that was. Yeah, well, thanks, Murdoch. Yeah, where was it? What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I'd been seeing all these blowouts, all these the cost of the suburban rail link and the blowout. So I did a bit of homework and I looked at the original budget when 2014 and now 2015, the increase. Oh, and I looked at a whole lot of different media outlets and stuff, and I looked at all the numbers. Do you know what the blowout is between 2014 and 2025? It's less than the rate of inflation. The increase in the cost of a major project is less than the increase in inflation for the same period of time. Do you know what that means? It means the cost has not actually gone up. It's like saying, oh, I get paid more now than I did in 2014. Yeah, you do. But in real terms, unless you get paid more than the increase in inflation over that period of time, you actually are getting paid less in real terms. Because I kept saying I have these discussions. I'm one of the people who shouts at the TV now, and I was having these discussions with my well, I was saying things to him, and he was rolling his eyes. My housemate. I was saying, why don't they ever tell us the percentage increase? Why don't, when they're talking about the cost blowout, why don't they ever say it's blown out by 11% or it's blown out by 7% or it's blown out by 21%? And they never do. And for 3 years, I've been watching these stories and I'm thinking, and I'll look in the newspaper and I'll look online and nobody ever says what the percentage increase is. So you go back and nut it out for yourself. And the reason they don't tell you the percentage is because it's not an increase. In an actual dollar term, it's an increase, but in real dollar terms, it's not. So, anyway, just beware. I guess that's what I'm saying. What I want you all to know, fellow travellers, all is not what it seems. Usually, when you read or look at any of the crap that you consume on mainstream media, I don't like that term really much, but pretty much any media. But if people aren't prepared to tell, look, if people aren't prepared to tell you really how much something costs, or what they're putting into it, or if they're invested into it, so here we go. Aussie Welder, yeah, to scare us off from public projects. Now, here it's more bald faced. In Victoria, it's about saying Labor bad, bad with money. That's what the message is from, but it's consistently from. I mean, Nine Media was until recently run by a liberal treasurer who had to resign in disgrace for being a violent bastard, and Channel 7 Media is the other one that I see it all the time. The ABC just follows along. They don't break stories or anything anymore. They just follow along with stories like that. But Seven West, they just got flogged again for defending a war criminal. So I'll be interested to see how that washes out. But yeah, they're not real news outlets or anything anymore. What was I going to say? I was going to say something really interesting, I thought. So interesting, I can't even remember what it was. Yeah. So there we go. I think that's about all I've got that I wanted to talk about today. I'll come back on tomorrow. I will think about. I'll have a look. I'll have a bit of a look more. Uh, Aussie World, yeah. Well, Media Watch has always been one of its own. I'll tell you what you should be. Actually, yeah. Let me pontificate. There's a couple of things, if you don't follow them already, you should. Michael West Media, Scam of the Week. You should check that out. On Sunday morning, running at the same time as Insiders on the ABC, is the Sunday Shot. It is the sort of the Sunday show from the website The Shot. That's turned into a pretty good show. I'm amazed at how few people are watching it, watching it live anyway. So it's giving me an idea that I should probably. I mean, look, they are. When I was watching live last Sunday, they only had 4 times as many people that are watching us now, right? So, but that grows and people are paying attention. So it just gave me some ideas. I'm considering doing a show that follows on from. They go 9 to 10, and then I was thinking I should do something 10 o'clock onward. Saturday morning too, by the way. Let me just do some housekeeping. Saturday morning, we will be back with habitat gardening, and yes, we're talking about orange flowering plants. I'll watch for sure. I can't stand Insiders; they really aggravate me. Yeah. Charlie, it's The Shot, SHOT. If you search on if Twitter or on YouTube or Blue Sky, their sort of logo is a shot glass. The Shot. They've been doing independent media for a number of years now, just as The Shot, as like a online publication, but the Sunday Shot, which is like their sort of interview program, is cool. Good guests. I've been really enjoying it and spreading the word as much as I can. So SHOT, and if you search The Shot or the Sunday Shot, you will find it 9 a.m. Sunday morning. They are doing a show this week. I don't know if they're going to be every week because they've all got other jobs and it's like they're sort of extra. They were doing it for the election. Charlie's there saying, yeah, Insiders is so frustrating. I only watch clips of Insiders, and if I get time, I will watch it later in the week, but I'll just watch clips. I prefer to watch Media Watch and Michael West and Friendly Geordies. Charlie, they're on Blue Sky, Twitter, YouTube. Stan's here. G'day, Stan. Stan on Kangaroo Island TV. Follow Stan on YouTube. If you're in Kangaroo Island, look him up if you're heading down that way. Sunday Shot is good stuff. I agree. Also follow Kangaroo Court of Australia and Punters Politics. I like Conrad on Punters Politics. I do consume a lot of his stuff. Kangaroo Court of Australia, I'm 50-50 on. Shane Dowling, I think, is his name, the guy who runs that. Sometimes he's right on the money, but sometimes he's poorly researched. And in my opinion, I generally agree with what he's got to say, but I sometimes think he opens himself up to not being taken very seriously because he's not so well researched. He often shoots from the hip and then has to walk back some of the things he says. So, which is okay. He gets the shock value. Um, I'm okay with that. He's just not my first port of call. I will go Michael West or Friendly Geordies before I would put my money on Kangaroo Court of Australia. Conrad at Punters Politics is good value. There's a number of really interesting shows. If you've been watching my stuff for long enough, for a while, you know I'm fairly collaborative, and that's something I would like to do is pull together a Sunday show, and it would be under the not just another podcast and the Twitch, where I can collaborate with more sort of like-minded people, but try and get some pollies on for conversations. Sundays is hard, but it's a day I generally find myself really wanting to go live and wishing I had someone to talk to when I go live, because I love doing interviews. I love having collaborative streams. They're lots of fun. So, Stan, since you got stuff on in the background, what's going on down there? Did you get any more rain, or have you started to get the cold nights on Kangaroo Island? I mentioned that it was minus 1.5 degrees, or I think it was 1.3 degrees here yesterday morning, and I didn't look. Actually, I can look now, can't I? I can look now and see how cold it was. There we are. Let's have a look. Uh, 3.3 was the lowest temperature overnight here, so it was positively balmy, tropical compared to yesterday. So just checking while I'm having a bit of a break, just checking all the socials, seeing what we've got. Sorry, I'm just going to do something. Just bear with me, folks. Stan says, "Hey, Aussie welder, no real rain on Kangaroo Island. 6 degrees here. That's getting cold in Perth. Let's see what I can do here." Sorry, I'm just responding to a message from actually someone in the Philippines. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks for popping in. Look forward to seeing you on Saturday for Habitat Gardening. I will be back probably tomorrow on here talking about stuff again. Um, uh, uh, okay. So anything else anyone wants to say? Oh, good. I'm just putting everyone's message up on the chat. I should let the personal stuff just go through. Uh, you're all here. You can all read it. I've got it up on the thing. I should do that. Then I can maybe spend more time preparing other stuff, shouldn't I? I got sidetracked talking about the Liberal Party. Um, I think where I was going with that is that I think that if they can't negotiate holding firm in the middle, uh, I think there's a real danger that they will have to lurch right to try and get back the One Nation and trumpet voters. And if they do that, uh, and they commit to that, well, then you might see a federal national liberal sort of merger. There's no point in if they run to the right. There's no point in having two parties, and there's no point in having all those splinter parties. If they could get them all under one umbrella, well, then they got a chance of getting government again. So 6 is about the minimum on Kangaroo Island too. That's interesting. Aussie Welder says they will slide right. Yeah, it depends. If the party stays together, as it currently is, I don't think they will slide right. But if more and more of them move into the sort of the teal territory. Well, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is if they can't recapture the ground that they have lost to the teals, I don't think there's anywhere for them to go. And perhaps what will happen is some of the more centre liberals will hive off and become independents, and then maybe some of the ones further right will head over to the Nationals or the Trumpets or One Nation. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to know. I just saw a. I'm just having a look. I just saw a notification come up on the phone, and I want to see. I will come back and talk about this tomorrow. Sorry, I know it's very boring looking at me. Just wanted to see if there was that article had any juice in it. I will. This is a good thing. None of those options sound good for us. Well, don't despair. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity if the Labor Party are prepared to be better than they usually have been whenever they've been in a position of strength. It gives the centre left and the left a real opportunity to take a stranglehold on power for 20 years, maybe even longer. But are there enough clever political operatives in those two parties to take advantage of it. I'm gonna wind up in a minute, but what I am going to do is come back tomorrow, and I'm going to do two things. I'm not coming back on the bird emergency tomorrow. Okay, so if you're on Facebook now, which nobody is, good, and you want to catch me talking about, I'm going to talk about the background and the state of play in the Philippines Parliament, in their Congress. Try and who's who in the zoo, and also try and get a better handle on so that I can explain it better to you about provinces, the state of play in provinces and the other major cities apart from Manila and Davao, and also how the barangay local government works. So that's what we'll do tomorrow. Plus, I'm going to have more of a think about what I think about the Liberal and National ending of the coalition. I'll go to the. I'll read all the people that I think are smart, and I might do a really long stream tomorrow. We might be streaming for about 6 hours. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? I do know that more people come in the longer I stream. So, but it gets hard on the throat. I can tell you that now. I'm drinking cold coffee because my throat is sore. Yes. I did want to spruik. I think what I was going to do was spruik a couple of those. I might do that. No, I might do that tomorrow. It'd be better if I put a whole heap of lists up, people that I like to chase down for a bit of political opinion or information. So that was what I was going to say. If you want to join in tomorrow, you need to be coming to not just another podcast channel or the Twitch channel, which is Grant Bird Nerd on Twitch. And if you haven't used Twitch before, you can just get the Twitch app. I'll have to do something on write something on Discord, I think, today too. So that's where I'll be streaming. It's a lot. That's politics, right? That's where we're going to talk politics tomorrow. I'll probably put a notification out on the Bird Emergency socials. But yeah, let's talk Philippines and the coalition tomorrow. And then I might talk about Indonesia. That'd be good, wouldn't it? We can move into the Indonesia, and perhaps the UK is looking like a bit of a shit show at the moment. Yeah, worry. So, folks, thank you. I am Grant. I am a bird nerd. I am a plant nerd, and I'm also a politics nerd. That's what we'll keep talking about. You can interact with me on Twitter and Blue Sky if you would like to. On Twitter, you'll find me at Bird Emergency, and on the Blue Sky, I think it's the Bird Emergency. But whatever, I've got a nice little Barley Starling as my icon, and pretty easy to tell it's me by the kind of crap that I retweet and say. But that's the easy way to find me. And of course, YouTube, Not Just Another Podcast, and Twitch at Grant Bird Nerd. Stan, great to see you. I haven't seen a notification for any Kangaroo Island TV the last few days, so I'm guessing you've been busy doing something else. Hope the Polestar's still going well. Charlie, Aussie Welder, whoever it was on Twitch who didn't say anything. Who else do we have? Charlie, Aussie Welder. Did I miss anyone else who was interacting? Stan? No, I don't think so. Okay. Well, take it easy, folks. See you tomorrow if you join me then. I want to say midday. But you know me. Might be 1. See you then. Hooroo.